Hear me in the World Vibes Radio. Why they my youths, yeah? Not take no talkie. Be careful of some places where you walk. Some no know God, them no read Bible. Then we shoot you down with them rifle. Do not bring no guns, come to town. It's World Vibes, tell them leave that at home. Them better bring love, come to town. It's I say spread the joy around. World Vibes Radio. I'm not taking this, you know. Let's go and teach your youths them. Play some good music. Educate them.
Yo, check this out. This is Anthony Cruz, and you don't know it's the Diaspora Connection featuring Kabbalah for Jamaicans with Joshua. Keep it locked, man. Blaze it hot. Anthony Cruz said that.
Let's go. The ground still tall. Let me go. I walk with you, Chacha. Deep down in my soul. Always hold my hand in a Chacha. Never let me go. Still I walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. Still not left out the Most High. I not left out the Most High. I still I walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. Still not left King Tafari. I not left out the Most High. Here's my hand, Oja. Could you walk with me? I'm alone, Oja. Could you talk with me? Yes. You are the reason me not in the market. And you give me peace now me heart all when me get rich and have 3 bodyguard and some big bad dog in me heart. I still have walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. Still not left out the Most High. I not left out the Most High. I still have walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. Still not left King Tafari. I not left out the Most High. On my way to school, carry Jaja with me. All in the classroom, carry Jaja with me. Oh, you mean? In every lane and every crevice and corner. Still I see I see my me than dada. From me a little bit of pitney one order. So all when me turn grandfather. And I still a walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. And still not left out the Most High. I not left out the Most High. I still a walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. Still not left King Tafari. If you're going through this, working all day and night and still can't live a good life. Tell me if you're going through this. The money where you make done before it reach your hand, my friend. Tell me if you're going through this. Now no money big gas stars, so you can't to drive your car. Tell me if you're going through this. Every day I wonder if no better life no dead for you. Them say things that get better, but we can't see it. Can't see it, we can't. Them say money I run right and all but pocket still I feel it. Still I feel it. Can't sleep at night because we stress out. Every month and that talk about kick out. Make our hands now meet. People line up on street. Change is what we need. Tell me if you're going through this. Working up overtime and still can't pay your bills span time. Tell me if you're going through this. The work you work so hard, still can't feed you them on your yard. Tell me if you're going through this. Tears run from your eye when you look over your life at night. Are you going through this? Every day I wonder if no better life no dead for you. Them say things that get better but we can't see it. Can't see it, we can't. Them say money I run right and all but pocket still I feel it. Still I feel it. Can't sleep at night because we stress out. Every month and that talk about kick out. Make our hands now meet. People line up on street. Change is what we need.
So many times you are on your last dime. People see a smile, don't know what you're going through inside, yeah. Working so hard, but still ends not meet. Sometimes you won't believe, no better, no dead if you really.
There's things that get better, but we can't see it. Can't see we can't. Them say money a run right and all, but pocket still a feel it. Still a feel it. Can't sleep at night because we stress out. Every month and that talk about kick out. Because ends now meet. People lying up on street. Change is what we need. Them say things that get better, but we can't see it. Can't see it, we can't. Them say money a run right and all, but pocket still a feel it. Still a feel it. Can't sleep at night because we stress out. Every month and that talk about kick out. Because ends now meet. People lying up on street. Change is what we need.
Definitely because the youths broke out bad. I only issue guns for the youths them go rob. The garrison them want treat like home for the dogs, but the ghetto full of star like American flag. Me believe in the ghetto, I swear. Them only promise things, but them no mean 'cause them no care. This are the home for my brothers and my sisters. Some me left for not to jack and me a chant couple scriptures. I know why the youths are rebel. When the story of the ghetto now things don't look well. The dirty work so them a preach, them a go dead and go a hell. Or you fit take away all the things them when the street vendors a sell. I know why the place no run merry. One make your things every day, another one a bury. It's set up to we survive any means necessary. You split up all the ghettos in a war territory. Some easier for them, harder for we. The world need education, so why it can't be free. More see elevation for the nation. Stop confuse the youth, them mind with your television. Hey, technically speaking, me beg on put this in on the mind and draw for meeting. Corrupted staff members, them get deleting. Them biggest plan is to get rich. Them gaining interest while them in bed sleeping and every day. I know why the youths are rebel. When the story of the ghetto now things don't look well. The dirty work so them a preach, them a go dead and go a hell. Or you fit take away all the things them when the street vendors a sell. I know why the place no run merry. One make your things every day, another one a bury. It's set up you will survive any means necessary. You split up all the ghettos in a war territory.
All that we are real, you do all that we are friends. Make we stop on the corner, spin around on the gens. When big song a play, we are beat on the fence. Because we burn friend killer and we burn fast pretense. When butter cook everybody a look six love drop on the table and shook. Me say that song you have for voice, cause the place get nice. This a free me get a paradise. Big up the place where me come from, cause it nice again. The done them a say none of it rise again. Yes, a good vibes again. Big up the place where me come from, cause it nice again. The done them a say none of it rise again. I know one one. Yes, a good vibes again. Right now no man not tax, no man feed it. A youth a rise boat, yeah, we glad for them. Yeah. Right now, me see pale over show. Remember one time me couldn't put my foot out the door. Baby mother's happy, I've been like this too. Cause the youth and my mind of youth. No man now get execute, now look no man fi shoot. You know long me no see a black so. So big up the place where me come from, cause it nice again. The done them I said none of me rise again. Hey. I know I not one, yes a good vibes again. Big up the place where me come from, cause it nice again. The done them I said none of me rise again. I know I not one, yes a good vibes again.
Them say a new world order. Population control them call murder. First them turn them back against the picnic them. Then them turn round and give the gun them to the mother and the father. Google search the horn of Africa. Look how much youth a drop dead in a Somalia. Disease a spread like Facebook. Them don't even know them place. Look them never taste the raw, much less the taste. Hear them crying out.
realize and push the peace higher. The people them a ball for ceasefire. Wars of a million, the million them seek with each prayer. See the know the weak a face the fire. But listen me know, me spend a week at Israel and me a look cross on the Gaza. Me feel the love on every corner. The bigger is them rather war and disaster. But when they meet them master.
Okay. yourself for the better. Let's hold hands, we can do this together. We should all call on the one up above, the one that's made us the champion. He's the world's greatest, no other compares to him. It's a blessing, and I know that he will save us. Don't be afraid, it would only make you stronger. And I know that he'll be here forever, just as long as you believe in him. Better days will be longer. In a time like now, when the world needs prayer, call on him and lift him higher. Look what's going on around us, yeah. And make a change in yourself for the better. Let's hold hands, we can do this together. We should all call on the one, 'cause this is more than a worldwide crisis. If you're ready, then we can survive this. How I long for you to realize this. Our prayers will work, 'cause if I pray, then you pray. Pray for better days and peaceful energy. The Almighty, His Majesty, is listening all the way. In a time like now, when the world needs prayer, call on Him and lift Him higher. Look what's going on around us, yeah. And make a change in yourself for the better. Let's hold hands, we can do this together. We should all call on the one.
I see confusion in your eyes, and maybe you're a little surprised the way we make love under the moonlight. Tomorrow you'll sit in your light. Come away in a dream. This world, it's not what it seems. There be no gold at the end of the rainbow. Birds don't fly anywhere that the wind blows. Come away in a dream. Life is not what it seems. Happily don't always live forever, but my love is getting stronger every day. Oh, stronger every day. Yeah. Oh, they tell me that diamonds are your friends, but diamonds won't be there in the end. I give you my love to remember. I keep you happy, happy, happy. You shouldn't be me bonify. Nothing in this world can justify. Nothing on your heart for I and I. It's you and I, baby. Maybe it's just fate. Our time has simply been waiting. Is a chance to bring us together. We can go in search of forever. In a dream, this world, it's not what it seems. There be no gold at the end of the rainbow. Birds don't fly anywhere that the wind blows. Come away in a dream. Life is not what it seems. Happily don't always live forever, but my love is getting stronger every day. Ooh, see the future in your eyes.
I realized my baby was gone. She's gone, she's gone, she's gone. I realized my baby was gone. She's gone. 2 weeks now she gone. 10 hours, 30 minutes, 5 seconds since she left me. Now I'm sitting all alone, staring at the phone, hoping she would call. Please, baby, come back and turn this house into a home. 'Cause me without you and you without me is like no melody to my song. No, never thought I'd see the day I see you walk out the door and say you're not coming back. Never thought that I could cry, till I felt the tears fall from my eyes. When I realized my baby was gone. She's gone, she's gone, she's gone. I realized my baby was gone. She's gone. Well, if you said we were meant to be, why the hell are you leaving? 'Cause you hurt someone with a careless rumor, mentioned I was cheating. Yeah, you should know and know by now. Jeopardize what we have. Believe in us, don't believe in the lies. Seeing you leave really hurt me, babe. Never thought I'd see the day I see you walk out the door and say you're not coming back. Never thought that I could cry, realized my baby was gone. She's gone.
Them say depression is a state of mind. We're trying to get over, but the things ain't fine. We're rising up early in the morning time. Yet no man know I wait in line. In the city, in a pretty, the leaders get pretty. Some afraid, so them sound the alarm. Beg the youths them to come. Eh. We need food, but a fool them a farm. The people about say it hard. Things get hard, things get hard. Home and abroad, ends now meet again. Dollars have no friends from the ends. Church people about to the Lord. Things get hard, things get hard. Most dire of circumstance. Oh, we calling, but there's no response. In their mind, them think them safe. From the system them put in place. I try to treat the underprivileged like a slave, so it cannot stop misbehave. Uptown will be burning down. Downtown man asleep on the ground. Siren a ring out and the people a shout. We need justice, them balling out. The people about say it hard. Things get hard, things get hard. Home and abroad, ends now meet again. Dollars have no friends from the ends. Church people about to the Lord. Things get hard, things get hard. Most dire of circumstance. Oh, we calling, but there's no response. Money run out, things rough out the road. Can't find no food, things tough out the road. Is a workman a wait man? Some of the gun is like the devil in a them right hand. But I don't want to hear another excuse. No want to see another brother in the excuse. Time to change up your folly. Me see the people, they not talk about you sorry. The people about say it hard. Things get hard, things get hard. Home and abroad, ends now meet again. Dollars have no friends from the ends. Church people about to the Lord. Things get hard, things get hard. Most dire of circumstance. Oh, we call him, but there's no response. The people about say it hard. Things get hard, things get hard. Home and abroad, ends now meet again. Dollars have no friends from the ends. Church people about to the Lord. Things get hard, things get hard. Most dire of circumstance. Oh, we calling, but there's no response. The people.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Diaspora Connection featuring Kabbalah for Jamaicans. My name is Joshua. Welcome to episode 149. Those of you who have been listening for quite some time, welcome back. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, welcome. What we do here is on World Vibes Radio. I have been a student of the Kabbalah Center for the last 16 years. Kabbalah is the ancient Israelite teachings that Moses received on Mount Sinai. And it is the basis of Judaism, which is the foundation of Christianity. It is based upon the teachings of the Old Testament, the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers and Deuteronomy. And the principal text, what you will hear us discuss here from time to time, is the Zohar. The Zohar is the principal text of Kabbalah. It is a magical text that helps us to unlock the secrets of the Torah, to tap into the energy that is built into the Hebrew letters, for the Hebrew letters were uniquely designed by the Creator to transmit light force energy. Hence, that is why those who practice Judaism are very powerful people, very unified, usually in abundance, yes, and it's because of the power and the ability of the Hebrew letters to transmit life force energy, as well as the system that they follow. The reason why the Israelite or the modern day Jew is so successful in the world is because of the system that they follow. And that system we intend to share here on Kabbalah for Jamaicans segment. I have been studying this wisdom and living it for the last 16 years. And let me tell you, it is magical indeed. It creates a force field around you. And it forces you, well, not forces you, but by embracing the teachings, by aligning your life, adopting the practices, and aligning your life to the forces of the universe, you will begin to vibrate at a higher frequency. And by vibrating at a higher frequency, you will draw higher things to yourself. By studying the wisdom, your character will change. And as your character changes, your behavior will change. And as your behavior changes, you'll be more in alignment with the forces of the universe. And the universe is so designed to respond to us when we behave correctly. And when I say correctly, there is a correct way to behave. There's a correct way to think, and there's a correct way to behave, which once you're in alignment with the forces of creation, then you will be at peace, and abundance will flow naturally. Naturally, okay? Naturally. So again, welcome. Last night, we had a great program where Mr. Neil Curtis, the founder and CEO of Farm Up Jamaica, we had a wonderful discussion, and Mr. Curtis should be joining us later. Maybe we can continue that conversation. And I think it was a great program in that through our conversation, I was able to share ideas from a Kabbalistic perspective, because that is what we all need. We need to understand the universe from a Kabbalistic perspective, because by doing that, we will receive from the forces of creation. Because like I said, the creation has been programmed to respond to those who follow the Creator's laws and ordinances, his precepts, as is outlined in the Old Testament. The universe is designed to respond to people in a very favorable manner for those who follow those precepts. And the teachings of Kabbalah help us to understand the secrets so that we can tap into them, such as yesterday was the 9th day of the 9th month. We're in the month of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the 9th month of the year, of the astrological calendar. And yesterday was the 9th day of the 9th month. And at the 9th hour, in fact, at the 9th minute of the 9th hour of the 9th day of the 9th month, was an extremely powerful opening. And for those who knew, were able to meditate and to focus during that period of time to ask the universe to fulfill their desires, because that the universe was opened. The time of desire was opened. And you could ask anything of the universe, and it will begin to come to you, providing that you do the right things, the things that are necessary, because nothing comes without a cost. Nothing is for free in this world. You know, we think that the air we breathe is for free. And in a sense, you don't have to pay for it. But guess what? The scripture said, to whom much is given, much is required. So even the free air that you breathe, the Creator is expecting you to live your life righteously. Right? Even though He gives us free will, and people live their lives the way they want to live it. But if you want abundance, if you want protection, if you want longevity, if you want health, if you want all the good things in life, if you follow the precepts of the Creator, you will receive them. You will receive them. So, one of the things I usually share with the listeners is that through this wisdom, if you're able to ride the wave by connecting to the rituals and to the wisdom, it gives you ability to ride the wave of energy, because that's what Kabbalah is really all about, teaching us how to embrace energy, how to manipulate energy for good, how to stay away from chaos, and how to draw blessings. That is what the teachings is all about. So if you're in your life and you want to improve, wherever you are in your life, you want to improve, then continue listening, make the connections as suggested. A very big connection is on Saturday, which is the Shabbat. Unfortunately, the Christians, I should say the Catholic Church, changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. For those of you who are Seventh-day Adventists, you know that Shabbat begins Friday evening at sundown and goes until Saturday evening sundown. So that's a very special opening that if we know how to connect to it, we can do miracles and we can obtain energy to continue through our days. Yeah. So again, welcome. And we're here on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. 11 p.m. Eastern. And we play music. We love to play music because we grew up with reggae music, and me say reggae music is the most spiritual music in the world. Yeah. And here is this one I'm going to dedicate to my brethren, Mr. Neil Curtis. And again, like I said, hopefully he will join us later on.
Tidal again.
This is Tell 'em Perform by Tidal.
Just a message to the youths, you know.
We got to find a better way to survive.
Things get expensive.
If we don't take the sword, how will we stay alive? I use the better ones, Vikings. After me take a shot in the garrison, I'ma see how the youths them a live. Every man I walk with a shop, so them a hunt for the food, them not think positive. Them claims that the only way to survive is to rob and steal. Instead of you a sit down and a beg for your five now. Come and push out in the field. Remember me tell them for farm. Them a farm food. After me show them farmer tricks, them run for them banana flip. Then I see them gone for the wrong tool. Hey, Vikings me tell them for farm. And them a farm fool. Hey, me tell them boys up until it's silent. Tell me same blood a boil and it can't cool. Hey, you have some big lazy man out the road them. Always a boast for them man. When you see them a tell them a hustler. Me never hear them a hunt for a job. Me grandmother come from market. The whole of them have them eyes for our back. Me never want help to play the card, but all the money from it, them want rob. Remember me tell them for farm. Them a farm fool. I promise show them farmer tricks, them run for them banana flip. You know see them gone for the wrong tool. Tell them for farm. Them a farm fool. Yo, me tell the boys up until it's silent. Tell me same blood a boil and it can't cool. Hey, the only thing you are gonna lose is your spread from your going on the field and a plant up the sheep. But Mr. Babylon a plant for your dead from your sit down on street side the Isle of Machine. So tell me why you're ready now. You're ready to be a nuisance in the scheme. Him left him mother down young, she a ball and a bread can to take people things wanna feel. Hey, remember me did tell them for farm. Them a farm food. Me show them some farmer tricks, them run for them banana flip. You know see them gone for the wrong tool. Tune around me tell them for farm. Them a farm food. Now me tell the boys up until it's silent. Tell me same blood a boil and it can't cool. Vikings, after me take a shot in the garrison, I'ma see how the youths them a live. Every man I walk with a shop, so them a hunt for the food, them not think positive. Them claims that the only way to survive is to rob and steal. Instead of you a sit down and a beg for your five now. Come and push out in the field. Remember me tell them for farm. Them a farm food. After me show them farmer tricks, them run for them banana flip. Then I see them gone for the wrong tool. Hey, Vikings me tell them for farm. And them a farm fool. Hey, me tell them boys up until it's silent. Tell me same blood a boil and it can't cool.
Yes, and that was Tidal with Tell Them for Farm. You know, because I tell you, really and truly, my brother Neil has a heart for Jamaica, and actually tomorrow evening is going to be having a special um, a conference, not so much a conference, a Zoom conference. It's entitled the $3 billion question, and if he makes it on later on, he'll explain a little bit more about that. Now, again, why are we here? We're here to give Jamaicans knowledge, information that hopefully they will turn into wisdom. Because, as I said, the universe is designed to respond to us, or I should say to those who live by a certain code. It is designed, it is programmed to respond to those who live by a certain code favorably. Again, that is why the Jews, the Israelites all around the world appear to be blessed. Now, what is happening in Gaza is a travesty. I am not in support of that. Okay? And unfortunately, it gives the term Israelite and Jew, it's one of the things that give it a bad name. But let me say this to you. The true Jew is only the one who follows the system. Okay, the believer. The one who believes in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of the Old Testament. Not the God of the New Testament. Because according to some religions, the God of the New Testament is very different than the God of the Old Testament. The teachings of Kabbalah are purely designed upon the Old Testament. And the Zohar helps us to unlock the secrets of the Torah, which is the Old Testament, so that we can connect to the energy so that it can help us in this world. That is why the Creator gave us the Torah, to help us as a manual book, to teach us about the spiritual system that's in place. It's not a history book. Okay? It's not a history book. And it's not a book of laws and regulations. It's a book of energy. Every word that is in the Torah emits energy. And if you know how to connect to it, you'll receive protection. You receive blessings. You receive sustenance, health, the answer to your problems. Yes? That's what the teachings are here to do, because the teachings help us to change our character, change our desire to receive for the self alone, which is our ego, to a desire to receive for the sake of sharing. It is built in within man to be selfish. Built in. That's how God made us. Because of our body. But our soul is a spark of the Creator and behaves like the Creator. So the teachings are given to us so that we can transform our character, our ego, restrict our ego so that our soul can lead. There's a difference between our soul and our ego. And I'm going to play a few lectures here tonight that will help us to understand that and maybe give you some tips on how to deal with life, because really and truly, that is the whole issue. When we behave in a selfish manner, the universe is going to respond to us accordingly. And that's where chaos comes from. That's where chaos comes from. So I actually want to play this one particular lecture from one of the teachers, one of the young teachers at the Kabbalah Center. It's truly very insightful, because he's sharing about the story in the Torah, which is what we're reading, going to be reading this coming week on Saturday. So we're in Genesis. We're in Genesis chapter. We're going to be reading Genesis chapter 32 this coming week, this Saturday. And this is the story of Jacob when he has left Haran after being there for about 20 years, yeah? And where he, for those of you who know your Bible, his mother and his father sent him Isaac. Rebekah sent him away because his brother Esau wanted to kill him. And they sent him to Haran, the land of his mother's family, to his uncle, Laban. And he wanted to marry Rachel. They tricked him, gave him Leah first. After, working 7 years, they switched Leah and Raquel. So he marries Leah first, sleeps with Leah, marries Leah first, and then has to work another 7 years to marry Rachel. All of this is codes, by the way. All right, like I said to you, the stories that are in the scriptures, whether they happened or not is not the point. I believe they did. But what's more important is the spiritual significance of those actions. And those people that we read about, they're what you call chariots, right? They were people who lived their lives a certain way to create certain pathways to the light force, to create or to release certain energies into the universe by the way they live their lives. Hence, Abraham is known as representing the right column of the tree of life, the sphere of Hesed, which is mercy and love, forgiveness, long suffering, hospitality. His son Isaac represents the left column, severity, judgment, negativity, not in the sense of being bad, but negative as in drawing, receiving for the self alone. And then his son Jacob represents the central column. So all of the characters of the scripture, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, his brother Aaron, Joseph, son of Jacob, and King David, all represent various levels within the tree of life. So when we read about their lives, we are connecting to the energy of the spiritual system. When we learn about them, how they behaved, the challenges that they were presented, their relationship with the Creator, it is opening up those same channels for us to tap into, for those energy levels for us to tap into. So this particular lecture is by Yosef Yeshurun, again one of the young teachers at the Kabbalah Center, and it's a beautiful, beautiful short, 7 minutes long, of how to deal with people. Yes, how to deal with people. So
the theme this week is obviously some sort of confrontation. And when Yaakov finally confronts Esav, it says something very peculiar. It says that he bows down to Esav 7 times. Bows down to Esav. What's going on here? How come Yaakov, so holy, is bowing down to somebody like Esav, who's so negative, who's the epitome of negativity? So there's a couple of answers. Tomorrow we'll speak about one of them, but today I want to mention that when it comes to dealing with someone that we have, let's say, an issue with, or we want to connect with them in some way, we want to influence them in some way, there needs to be a level of humility. There needs to be a lowering of yourself, because it is nature, it is our nature to only view the world with our own eyes, with our own frame of reference. So if I'm experiencing something, I'm experiencing it with my frame of reference. If the other person is, let's say, offending me or hurting me or doing something that's uncomfortable, I need to talk to them in some way, I can't talk to them from my frame. I need to talk to them from their frame. They're living in a whole different movie. And therefore, Yaakov, who's completely on a different level, and Esav, who's like on the lowest level, Yaakov, in order for him to even connect with Esav, he needed to bow down 7 times and lower himself to Esav's level and relate to him. Because you cannot just relate to someone just by communicating from your frame of reference, from where you're at. You need to, and this is part of the inner work, part of the spiritual work, get out of yourself, get out of your own frame, think about the other person and how they might need to hear it, relate to their level. And there's many ways we can do this, right? Thinking about how they want to be spoken to. But one of the points, 2 things actually today. Number 1 is just to get out of yourself. Get out of your own frame and think about the frame of the other person. Just think about it. It doesn't mean I need to succumb to what they think and what they want, but just consider the other person as well as your own. Don't just speak from what's good for you. Speak as well in terms of their own frame. And that could look like many different things, but I want to focus on one of them. One of the Kabbalists, actually one of the teachers of Vayishlach, speaks about the idea that the 7 bowing downs is actually awakening within Esav that Esav is holy. What Yaakov did was tell Esav, listen, you are actually a very elevated soul, but the idea of bowing down 7 times, he was showing him, listen, you are what you are, selfish, negative, money hungry.
In case you're wondering, Yaakov is Jacob and Esav is Esau. Okay? That is the Israelite
murderous
words.
Only because there's something called hishtalshelut, which is that when something very elevated evolves and goes down and goes down and goes down to this physical world, it looks very negative. But if you go back and up and up and up to the source, it's very holy. What Yaakov was trying to do with Esav was to show Esav, you are not negative, you are actually so positive. He was basically showing Esav how he's good. And his opinion, there's validity to it. His whole existence, there's validity to it. When you validate the other person, and again, Esav, this is a very unique case where Yaakov was able to show him, he was able to see the root of Esav's soul and show him, hey, you're not just like negative, you just need to like be destroyed. There's validity to your soul. It's very elevated. But because it went down and it materialized in this world, it came out like what you are right now. The point was to show him, if you want to, he knew that Esav was very stubborn. When someone's really stubborn, you don't just come in and say like what you want, your way. That if I'm more stubborn than the other person, I'll eventually win. That wouldn't work. You need to validate and say, you know what, you're right. You are valid to be who you are because look, this is what's happening to you. And with that, Esav opened his heart a little bit. And once his heart was open, then there was a conversation. Then there was an ability, at least for that moment, for connection. So in our life, and this is also proven with psychology and other wisdoms as well, that if you want to get somebody to agree with you or understand you or just communicate with you, you don't just speak well or communicate well. You need to go to their level and validate and say, yes, you are right. Validate their existence. Validate their feelings. Not completely saying like, it's totally okay. But that's the starting point. That's your entryway. And sometimes what we don't do is we don't validate the other person because we are so right. We are so stubborn with our own ego that we say, no, they're totally wrong. And we do that because we're only in our frame. Part of this, the most important tenet of the spiritual work is love thy neighbor as yourself. What does that mean? It means get out of yourself and feel the other person's pleasure and the other person's pain. What would they feel? How would you be treated? How would you feel if you were treated in that way? You're getting out of yourself, getting out of your ego. And that's essential when it comes to connecting with people. essential when it comes to confrontation. Again, it's not the be-all, end-all, but it is the first point that we miss. We tend to stick to our stubbornness, our story, and just double down on us. Instead of doubling down on yourself, release it. Bow down. Submit. Not fully submit to the other person, completely, but submit your own frame of reference and consider the other person's frame. This is a huge blow to our own ego, but eventually it makes us successful in connecting with people and with being influential. And tomorrow there's going to be another point about submitting and humility. But firstly, as it relates mainly to connecting with other people, get out of your own ego, your own frame, consider the other person's frame, and from there you can elevate the conversation.
So, was that insightful for you? You know, the young man has a very unique way of relaying this wisdom, you know, very easy to understand. And really, you know, we're in a time cosmically where communication can be difficult because of Mercury. I understand Mercury is retrograding, which means going opposite from its natural, you know, course. So it makes that communication between people very challenging. Yes. So I love how Yosef mentioned that, you know, when you want to go to somebody, if you're willing to really work things out, the proper way to do it is to go humbly and to somewhat take responsibility and ask yourself, well, you know, what did I do to contribute to what's happening to me? Right? Remember, Kabbalah teaches us that there are no victims. You cannot see yourself or think of yourself as being a victim and that things were done to you, because karma is real. And whatever came to you is you initially had put it out there. If not in this lifetime, in a past lifetime. Right? And those are one of the principles that we need to remember whatever happens to us, whatever we read, whatever's going on. Those are one of the principles that we have to understand exists. So, you know, go to the person and from their standpoint, yeah? Try to see it from their standpoint if you really want to reach peace. So now I'm going to play a lecture from Ravberg. This is a 1986 lecture from Ravberg on the portion of Vayishlach, again, which is Genesis chapter 32 through 36. And, you know, without further ado, Ravberg.
Are we ready? You know, I was reading a thing I meant to tell you about Rabbi Cook. There's selected writings and they give a biography about him.
Ken? This week is the weekly portion of Vayishlach. Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim lefanav el Esav achiv Atzah seir sedei Edom. The portion of the week begins with a narration of the, I won't use the word reunion, but the meeting again of Yaakov and Esav. For those of you who don't recall that Yaakov literally fled from Esav because Esav considered Yaakov as a perpetrator of thievery, meaning he had stolen the blessing that he believed was rightfully his. And to put the energy and tone into the lecture, we will always begin with the reading of the Zohar itself in the Aramaic, because by injecting the reading of the Zohar, whether we even couldn't even read it, or we don't understand the word that the Zohar itself is stating, that is unimportant, because, as you know, the power of the alphabet, which contains all of the potential energy that one can ever wish or desire to acquire, is already potentially included within the Hebrew letters and words of the Aramaic language. So I'll begin with the first paragraph, which states, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. Rabbi Yehuda Patach. It says in Tehillim, in Psalms, chapter 91, Ki malachav yitzava lach lishmarcha bechol derachecha. Haikra ukmua. This verse has already been discussed. Chavrayo do b'shate de banash asili alma. At the moment that an individual comes into this world, when he's born, miyad is damen ba'adye yetzehara. At the moment of birth, he immediately is infused with a thought, energy, intelligence of yetzehara. Now, of course, we understand yetzehara refers to this thought, energy, intelligence of desire to receive. In other words, for those of you who have already taken the beginner's lectures, you know that from age 0, the time of birth, until age 12 of a female or age 13 of a male, there is but one energy intelligence, and that is only me. In other words, no child, irrespective of what the outward appearance of his activity or her activity might appear as one that is generous, one that is sharing, one that is giving, that concept does not exist. The concept, that consciousness by a young child until the ages of 12 or 13 does not exist of sharing or giving. But if you notice at times that a child appears to be a good child, and it is a normal child, now we have to assume that the child is so far advanced that it can literally protect its internal ulterior motive as to why it is sharing and why it is doing a positive activity, etc. Because that consciousness of sharing for the sake of sharing alone, or receiving for the sake of sharing alone, does not literally exist within the frame of a child, female child until 12, male child until 13. That's what the Zohar says. At that moment, that is the consciousness of at birth. And this will be the mekatreg. This will be that aspect of schizophrenia, the aspect of doubt, the aspect of not knowing what to do, as most of us at one time or another, depending who you are, whether it's often or it's not often, we're not sure. The reason why we are not sure, meanwhile, we're just going to accept the word of the Zohar, is because this Yetzirah, this consciousness of negativity, is constantly there to be mekatreg, to trouble us, to confuse us. Kedama katuv lepetach chatat rovetz. At the entrance, sin always lies. My chatat rovetz, da Yetzirah. What is sin? Sin is nothing but the aspect of a consciousness of desire to receive for oneself alone. Now, this is the Zohar. Now, what is the... All right, let me go on to the other aspect that the Zohar provides us with. And he says, Ve'matai ati barnash lizdacha, kad iu bar tleiser shanin. When a person, the male at 13 or the female at 12, approaches that age, kiden is daveg barnash bitarvayu. At that moment, in other words, you've heard this already in the lectures for most of you, that this idea of bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah is a fraud. Either it means a pencil, either it means a fountain pencil, or it means gifts, or it means an affair, right? But what is the essence of bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah? No one knows, other than the rabbi said, this is the time you are now officially called a man or a woman. The Zohar says that something metaphysically is happening. And what is that aspect? A new consciousness. Chad mi yamina v'chad mismola. A new consciousness enters the child, the female child at 12, and the male child at 13. That is what bar mitzvah means. That now, within this child, there are two consciousness, positive and negative. Now the child can have an activity or can aspire to receive for the sake of sharing, which before the age of 12 or 13 couldn't have that kind of activity, because it was at that point there was no activity or consciousness of sharing, in spite of the fact that maybe, as I said before, we can see some children that do share. But remember, that sharing either is abnormal, and as you also know from the beginner's lectures, which I don't want to dwell on, that when a child is born, there is a test to see the normalcy of the child, the grasp or moral reflexes. In other words, the doctor will open up the palm of the hand, and if the fingers go back this way, they know the child is normal. But if the fingers remain outstretched, they immediately take this child for observation. The child cannot be normal. Now, the doctor doesn't know why. He only knows that after trial and error, after enough of investigation, they came to this conclusion. Ask him why, he doesn't know, but now you know why. Because a child that does not contain this aspect of me, of a desire to receive for me alone, is an abnormal child. It's an abnormal child. Therefore, at age 13, this aspect of sharing, this consciousness of a desire to receive for the sake of sharing, begins. Yetzer tov liyamina v'yetzer ra l'smola. Ve'ilu inen trein malachin mamash. Ve'inen mishtachin tadir b'hadei debanash. And these two aspects, these two consciousness, never leave the individual. At this point, we'll ask what and why did the Zohar bring in these aspects of consciousness of right and left to the Parshat HaShavua, to the weekly portion of Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefanav El Esav Achim. As I have said repeatedly, that we can never explore the Chumash, the Bible, from a literal narration aspect and perspective. If it said Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim, that Yaakov sent angels, or he sent messengers. So there is a disagreement of whether it meant he sent messengers, or, as Rashi says, as he comments on this particular verse, that they were literally malachim, literally angels. Now, Yaakov was a human being. He was a normal human being. What does it mean he was taking angels from heaven? I mean, if this is the way you're going to translate the pasuk, it doesn't have too much merit. I mean, here is a human being who is taking Malachim and sending them to Esav Achiv. How does he control these Malachim? Malachim are supposedly on a higher dargah, higher level. Therefore, because the Zohar has connected and associated what we have just discussed insofar as consciousness is concerned, we now learn a new perspective as to what Malachim mean. Generally, as children, we are brought up that it means angels. Angels. On Friday night, we sing Boachem L'Shalom, Shalom Aleichem to the angels. Are there angels? Are there angels? How do they look? How do they behave? Who are they? What are they? And how do I connect with these angels? Or maybe it's only Yaakov. You must be a Yaakov. So again, the Zohar says that if the Torah meant this story for Yaakov and not for me, then he wouldn't write it. Because what does this serve? What purpose does this serve for me? Whether Yaakov sent Malachim, they were true angels, not true angels. It's a story. And 80%, let's say, of at least Jews don't read the Bible anymore. Do not read the Torah because it doesn't make any sense. Or it has nothing to do with them today. So there was a nice story. It's a storytelling. In fact, if you reform, you see the way they've written up the Bible. Storytelling. And the Zohar says, woe to that person who considers these stories as storytelling. So they might be interesting for whom? For a child, maybe the age of 7, 14. But certainly we're not interested in stories. So what purpose does the Bible serve for us today? Therefore, the Zohar goes into this discussion of consciousness. When Yaakov sent Malachim, he was preparing himself for war. And as we have discussed many a time, even on a physical level, where does one prepare war? You send the army in, or at headquarters, they discuss strategy. The imbecile sends the army out and hopes that they will win. The smart army man prepares all of the logistics before the war begins. So obviously, where is the war being fought? On the battlefield, or is the war being fought at headquarters? What would you say? Headquarters. Of course at headquarters. It's only an imbecile who sends in the troops and hopes that they win. There's got to be a strategy. If there's got to be a strategy, you're talking about what? Consciousness. He figures out the whole war where? On the desk, on the table. Is that true or not? Yeah. That would be a smart general. So in other words, everything that we even do in our own lifetime, it's an imbecile who goes ahead and doesn't think in advance, or the smart individual who thinks it through before. So therefore, the Zohar immediately relates this entire aspect of Yaakov and Esav, the war. Supposedly they were going to fight with each other. Is this a war, a physical war? Says the Zohar, no. Talking about here not only of planning, as Yaakov did, to defeat Esav, as we will learn shortly. This is a war of strategy. But it is more than that. Because I don't think any one of us are preparing for war tomorrow. And therefore, I guess we can therefore just pass over this part of what interest does it serve, right? If it's telling me about a war between Yaakov and Esav. And even the way the rabbis describe it, it's the eternal war between Yaakov and the non-Jew. Mm-hmm. And we know, two states of consciousness. And we know that is not true. Two states of consciousness fighting warring with one another. But it's easier for the Jew to say, we're battling. You see, take a look at the non-Jew, or if you're an Israeli, take a look at the Arab. Who's my enemy? The Arab. The Zohar does not believe in that. The Zohar does not believe that battles are fought at the battlefield. Real battles are fought where? With brains, at its very least. And the Zohar goes one step further and says, as you all know, no wars are fought with brains, but they are fought with consciousness. They are fought with consciousness. What does that mean? That means just like a person wants to convince another individual, he wants to sell him something. He wants to take his money, is that right? When you sell somebody, why do you want to sell him? And we're not assuming that everybody wants to sell because he wants to help the individual who's going to buy. Not everybody sells only for the reason that people are going to buy. So we will assume that most people sell things so they can take the other one's money. Isn't that right? In other words, it costs $5. If he can take $7, he's made $2. We say that's used in the way of buying and selling, but in effect, focus into what's going on. $2 is what he's trying to take away from the other individual. Look at it from that point of view. Now look at it another point of view. Why should he give away his $2? But if I can convince him why it's so good for him, then he'll say, well, why shouldn't I pay the $2? It's going to do some good for me. Now, where did that come from? That came from my mind over his mind to convince his mind that this is good for him. Is that correct? We're trying to understand things around us, as you know, from a Kabbalistic point of view, not what everybody can see at the level, because nothing happens there. Only imbeciles operate on that level. We just got through saying, if that's all you're looking at. But things have to go beyond, or before things happen, you plan things out. This battle between Yaakov and Esav is not, as most Jews would like to interpret it, as the war between the Jew and his enemy, the non-Jew. That's the way it's usually described, because who is Esav? Esav is the father of non-Jews. And so therefore, this is the battle. Comes the Zohar and says, that's not even the battle. You see, because the battle that's going on between Yaakov and Esav is the battle that each and every single individual goes through each and every single day of his life. The battles of uncertainty, the battles of not knowing what to do, the battles with his wife. It's not a battle between Jew and non-Jew, because if every Jew in particular could straighten out his own life, he straightened out the whole world. So says the Zohar. And the cause of all troubles in the world, as we all know, the conspiracy is right. You know what the Goyim say? The Jews have a conspiracy how to destroy us. Have you heard that? Mm-hmm. A conspiracy. And I say they're right, but maybe for another reason. There is a conspiracy. Do you know why there's a conspiracy? Because the activity of a Jew, if he's bad, then he creates all of the misery in the whole world. We don't want to go into why the Jew has this kind of peculiar and particular power. But according to the Zohar, all troubles in the world is really, and where do you place that problem? Right at the doorstep. Incidentally, for those of you who don't know, Rabbi Shimon was Jewish. You know, if you're not sure whether he was Jewish or not, but he was really Jewish. So, he says that the battle here that is being described in the Torah is not discussing battlefields, is not discussing Jew and non-Jew. It is discussing the two consciousness that come to every single individual, whether you're Jewish, whether you're not Jewish. This is the kind of battle that everyone is going to be faced with throughout his entire life. Now I can see, maybe this is getting interesting. Maybe even the Bible will tell me how I can win the war. Which war? My war. How can I deal with everybody else and win that war? If we can understand the Torah from that perspective, then maybe it's going to become interesting. Did you want to say something, Sully?
No, I'm just shaking my head.
Just agreement. Okay.
The two consciousness
All right.
between the desire to share and the desire to receive.
That's right.
Unless you're reading my mind, I'm
That's right.
thinking it this way, that these battles that go on within ourselves usually manifest out there eventually.
Now, if you want to know why there really is trouble outside, is because I said, collectively, it's the Jewish problem. But individually, you can't say it's a Jewish problem because it's made up of individuals. So if the individual is bad, then of course he therefore conducts his business, conducts his relationship with his family, either negatively or positively. So it all really boils down to not what's going on outside, but what's going on inside. This is what the Zohar means by angels. So there isn't something called angels, maybe with wings, even though we put that kind of cover on one of our books, someone flying with wings. No, Malachim means consciousness. Malachim means consciousness. That is what the Zohar says. Ba Adam litaer nichna hayesar lefanav. And if a person wants to become tahor, we'll soon see what that means, but in any event, literally it means if he wants to purify himself, if he just thinks that way, nichna hayetzer hara lefanav, that evil inclination, that negative cosmic thought energy, intelligence becomes subjected. The fact that he wants to be litaher, vayamin sholet ala smol, and then the right shall rule over the left, ushnehem. Now this is the most startling declaration of the Zohar that I have ever seen. And it says, ushnehem, both the Yetzer Hara, both the evil energy, intelligence, or consciousness, and both the Yetzer HaTov, the positive thought consciousness, mitchabrim lishmor et ha'adam bekol derachav shehu holech. Not only does he rule, or the positive over the negative, but in essence, states Rabbi Shimon, both of these two forces join together and now will assist the individual. Not only the positive, but also the negative will also assist this individual b'kol derachav shehu holech, in every aspect that he goes. V'zer shekatuv, and this is what it means, ki malachav yitzaveh lach lishmarcha b'chol derachecha. You shall command those angels or those consciousness or those two entities, and they shall watch you in everything that you do. And therefore Rabbi Lazar continues. We haven't gotten to a clear explanation of that yet, but I just want to bring in this aspect of Rabbi Lazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon. Mamid et mikra hazeh b'Yakov. He says this pasuk is talking about Yaakov. Shehakadosh Baruch Hu hizmin imo malachim machnot mimunim mishum shehaya ba shalom im hashvatim elyonim shehayu kulam shleimim karui. In other words, how do you get together and have this kind of dominion ruling over these forces? He says because you have to have shleimut. As Yaakov was b'shleimut, therefore, once an individual has achieved that kind of level of purity, if you want to call it, then there isn't anything in the world that can come towards him, or that you'll have to then, as the Jew says usually, look what he did to me. Look what they did to me. Never again. Because nobody will be able to touch him, and therefore he'll never have to exclaim, look what he did to me. Because of what he did, I am suffering today. When an individual is thinking in terms of what? Of sharing. L'taher. What does tahor mean? Purity. It's the opposite of tameh. When he is tahor, meaning what? When he is in a circuit of energy, when he is in a field of circuit of energy, which means what? There is sharing, there is receiving, there's a balance between the both, then these two consciousness will watch over him, says the Zohar, and nothing and nobody will ever be able to touch him. Nothing and nobody will ever be able to touch him. This is what is being discussed here. On the level of the surface where we live, Esav absolutely came to destroy Yaakov. It so states. He came to destroy him. But Yaakov was already, as a general would do, prepare all of his logistics before the battle. And this is what he was doing. He was contemplating. He was looking inside, not outward. He was looking within. Was he b'shleimut? Was he complete? If he was complete, then he had nothing to fear. If he was complete, if he was not complete, then what does it mean he was not complete? It means that maybe negativity within him was more pronounced. There was more activity of negativity, of ratzon lekabel, of desire to receive, more so than desire to share. Then he'd have to worry. Then he would have to worry. But as long as he could look at himself and look in the mirror and say that as much as I have asked for myself, so have I also concentrated on sharing. These two aspects, if they exist within the individual, then what had happened here can happen with everyone in his own personal life. So states the Zohar.
So
all right?
Maybe he was sending three because it's a desire to share, desire to receive, and a desire to
well, there's no place here that it says that he was sending three, right?
Oh, but I thought I said three.
No, did I?
Well, maybe I'm thinking of three because of Abraham.
But we did mention the third force. What is the third force? I just mentioned it. The balance. In other words, when we said, rather than think outside, towards the outside, think inside, and try to see, am I balancing both the left and the right?
The inside would be his thought, and the outside would be what before was an enemy, would now be the outside, would be a vehicle now, in which he can
begin to think and project within himself.
It becomes a vehicle rather than an enemy.
That's right.
Okay.
Or an opportunity.
Oh, an opportunity, right, yeah.
Or an opportunity.
Just sending messages or what, but they still
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Why then did they have to send presents to Esau? The Tefillah, I understand. Okay.
Right.
But why did they have to send presents to Esau? When Esau represents the evil inclination of the Yetzer Hara.
Does everybody understand?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't come to that part, but okay. Now it then says that to prepare for this battle, and the battle was not going to be when he meets Esav, as we said before. Is that when he's going to prepare his strategy? He'd done the war long before he met Esav. Now, beside tefillah, which means to, in retrospect, to look inside, he also prepared gifts for Esav. Gifts. And it says then. They're telling him that he's coming here. In verse 14 of chapter 32, it says, then he was going to give a gift le'esav achiv, right? To his brother Esav. Now why? I mean, if he's going to prepare all of this in advance, what was the purpose of the mincha? The Zohar has already taken care of that, but of course there are different levels in our observation. But within the verse that the Zohar quoted, Lepetach chatat rovetz. If you know how to live Kabbalistically, you really have no problems. In fact, all your enemies are not even enemies. And the greatest enemy is stress. Is there a greater enemy than stress? Be happy 24 hours a day. Find me the individual who can say 24 hours a day, and we're not talking about someone who's just doing nothing all day, but someone who's active all day and says, I have no stress all day. Hard to find somebody like that, right? Because part of this is also to take care of lepetach chatat rovetz. And the Zohar said, why do we have to, on Shabbat, when we make the motzi, the Mekubalim would do what? They would cut the first piece of the challah, and what did they do with it? And they would not eat it. This was for the enemy. That's why they, every time on Shabbat, they would cut the challah. The first piece goes to whom? To the Satan, or the Yetzer Hara. The Brit, who gets the first portion? The Satan. The Orla, the piece that we cut off, that's given to you're supposed to be mechaven. This is the consciousness. For those who know what Brit Milah means, and you've already learned in the courses, you know what Brit Milah is really about.
What does it translate mean?
Circumcision.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I don't know.
Right. Don't know. I thought that. I thought you knew.
I don't know Hebrew.
But Brit Milah.
I'm Ashkenaz. I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he
Right.
says it in the Slavonic way.
Okay. Okay.
Who's it given to?
What's that?
Who is it given to?
It's taken, and that piece should be buried into the ground. In other words, it just shouldn't be discarded. While most people, pay no attention to it, but
is that done today?
Where you would have someone addressing himself with the Kabbalistic understanding of the Brit, this is what they would do. Yes.
Okay.
It's done today. How many people are doing it today? Hopefully, it'll become more widespread as we go on, and people will know what they're supposed to be doing.
To purify that which was not pure?
No, that's not the reason. That's not the reason. The reason is because he's got to be nourished. He's not supposed to remain hungry.
I'm talking about the burying of the...
Yes. Now, why do we put it into the ground? Yeah. Because the ground represents what? The epitome of a desire to receive. Where does gravitation come from? From the earth, right? Koch HaMashiach Haaretz, okay? What is that? That's all the Kabbalah. Is there a bigger desire to receive than earth? Why can't we fly? Because the earth pulls, right? There's no greater consciousness of a desire to receive than the earth. And therefore we take this little piece of Allah and we put it into the earth after the Brit. You've got to feed him. As long as the Mashiach did not come yet, and we are subjected to the desire to receive for oneself alone, we must feed him. But why should we feed him with goodies?
You talk about the earth, feed the earth, or feed the baby?
No. Feed the earth, or that consciousness of the Yetzer Hara, or the evil inclination.
Earth is she, and I'm just saying him.
What's that? Earth is she. That's right. But Earth is she, but her internal consciousness is male. right? Not to be chauvinistic,
No,
but
no, no. All
okay.
external is and all external is peace, doesn't it?
Okay.
What about on Shabbat? Should we then not eat the end piece?
No, that's right. We leave that for him. That's right.
What do you mean the last piece of food?
What's that?
What is the end piece?
The first piece. The first piece
when you make the blessing on the bread.
of the challah. That's right. The first piece is given to him. Okay. Her. Okay. But the Yisahara, well, because look, I did not decide that the DNA, right, or the sperm, what creates the person? Not the egg of the female. It's the sperm, the zeta of the male. Now, I didn't decide that. Now, you show me how a woman can. All she does is carry the baby. Now, I'm not saying without carrying, but the seed is the one that by which the tree grows. Absolutely, everything. In fact, you cannot have one without the other. But we have to qualify. One has a function of one sort, and one has a function of another. They are not contradictory, complementary.
You don't want the men to get conceited again. You know,
Well,
he is the,
let me see a baby born or a tree grow without the female, right?
Well, if it's somebody, you thought so. The way they put us in the background.
All right. I don't know who they are, but okay.
The world. Was a man
Well, that's not according to Rabbi Shimon.
That's why I like it when he thinks.
Oh, that's why you like it.
Me too. It's the first time I found a reasonable balance. Having grown up in a community that's been quite sexist, you know, with Judaism and everything. And it's very refreshing to know.
Okay, all right. I'm happy.
Attracts me.
Right. No, you've got to. Both are equally important. One without the other cannot come to a conclusion, right? You must have both.
Spirit, matter, so separated.
Which is more important, the body or the soul? Well, obviously the soul. But let me see a soul do its tikkun, do its correction without the body, right? It's got to have the body. All right? In other words, that house, that malchut as we call it. All right? Therefore, Yaakov understood that he would have to send a mincha. And that's why we say that it was Yitzchak who portrays the left column, the desire to receive. Abraham is right column, kav yamin, sharing. Yitzchak is kav small, desire for oneself. And Yaakov is the kav amsai. He's the middle column, and he does the balancing. This is the rest of us. We're supposed to constantly keep these two opposite polarities in a balance. No less than the filament in a bulb must create this balance. But on every day of the week, there's a prayer called mincha. Mincha. Why is it called mincha? The afternoon service, right? Some people even think that mincha means afternoon.
What does it mean?
Mincha is a prayer that is recited when the sun begins to its descent. And Yitzchak, Isaac, the patriarch, created this kind of prayer, and it's called mincha, afternoon. Why is it called mincha? Because we know that the sun is beginning to set, and we know that darkness is coming, because a consciousness of energy intelligence is now ruling the world. You know why the sun begins to set? Not because it's beginning to set, but because there is a force called Kaf small, the left column, that says, sun, you are the power, you are the light, now has come the time for you to set. That consciousness is called left column. And therefore, we can do nothing about that other than to appease it. Other than to appease it. And therefore, the prayer of mincha is just an appeasement for this strength or this power. And therefore, as you know, between the time of Shkiyah is the time when most criminal acts are perpetrated. between the ages of 5 and 7. Because the negative energy, thought, intelligence makes those people who would like to steal or murder, most of it takes place between the time of the hours of 5 to 7. This is a statistic. Now, they never questioned, was there a conference or a seminar by all criminals throughout the world to decide that between the hours of 5 and 7 is the time that we should all murder and kill, right? Obviously, something like that never took place. Because this is the power that is ruling the consciousness of negativity, and therefore Yitzchak, who was this embodiment, this portrayal of desire to receive, he created the tefillah of mincha.
Mincha l'shon menucha.
That's right, to appease it, to quiet it down. That's why it comes from the word mincha, it comes from the word menucha. That is correct. That's correct.
Everything you're channeling from mincha, you're thinking to give to him?
Only to quiet him down, that's right. And it was so structured for that reason. But it is the same amidah, the same shmona esrei, the same prayer at mincha as it is in the morning. So where is going to be the difference? So if you haven't learned Kabbalah, you really haven't accomplished anything.
Is it because in the morning?
Because it's the same prayer. The words are the same for the shachrit, for the morning prayer, as it is in the afternoon. So what's the difference? The answer is there is only one difference. If what your meditation is at that point is going to make the difference. Like the telephone wires for all of us is the same. Well, what's the difference between my telephone conversation and someone else's? Is it in the telephone? Or is it what is being said? What is being thought?
No, but I'm thinking of, you're saying the prayer because nighttime is coming.
That's right.
In the morning, is it because nighttime is leaving?
No, in the morning, it's shachrit, the sun is coming up.
So why should
There's positive energy. Oh, because that's what I'm going to think. Because the prayer is only a combination of aleph bet, nothing more.
Oh,
it's the vehicle.
Just for night. It's just
It's just a vehicle. In fact, at nighttime, it's the same prayer. So what's the difference? And yet it says that Abraham structured the prayer for Shachrit, Yitzchak structured the prayer for Mincha, and Yaakov structured the prayer for Arvit, for the evening. But it's all the same prayer. Why did you need the three of them to create the same prayer? The Amidah is the same that Abraham created. So what did Yitzchak and Yaakov do? They brought in another meditation to tell you that when you say this Amidah, you've got to think this way. When it's in the morning, think that way. Think chesed. In the afternoon, think gvura. At night, think Tiferet or Malchut, whichever.
You're talking about Separat now.
What's that?
You mentioned the Separat.
That's right. That's where it's at. Inserting, like you have a casing, right? Now, what are you going to put into that casing? An atom bomb? But you're not going to use an atom bomb for a local battlefield. Then in this casing, you will put in something which is going to be directed to that. The casing is the same. The question is, what's going to be inside? The difference of these three prayers is the meditation. Nothing more and nothing less. So therefore, it's called mincha. All right? All right. Now, speaking of prayer, again, it says that also in this parsha that he was left by himself and he prayed. And he prayed. He was worried. He was worried. Vayivate Yaakov levado. In verse 25, he was left alone. Vayavek ish imo ad alot ashacha. And it says that Yaakov was left alone, and this is, in fact, we learn, the Zohar also mentions it elsewhere, that one should never go by himself at night. Now, what does it mean it's night? Why is it night? Is the sun shining at night?
No.
Someplace.
Someplace it's shining. The sun didn't go down, so the sun is always the same. What does it mean at night? And at night, there's negativity. Why is there negativity? Because where I am, that power of the sun does not. Anyway, it says he was left alone. He was just by himself, and therefore no one should ever walk in the street alone. There should always at least be two people. All right, and then he had a confrontation. He had a confrontation with this man. Had a confrontation. So everyone, tries to understand what does it mean here. He had a confrontation with whom? So it says that he had a confrontation with the Sad of Esav. What does the Sad of Esav mean? It means the minister of Esav. What is Esav? Now we know. Thought, negative energy, intelligence. The evil part in us. The part that says steal. The part that says hurt. The part that says speak Lashon Hara.
But it wasn't somebody that Esav sent it? Was a battle within himself, or was it Esav sending it?
It was right. It was really within himself. Really
Esav
within
didn't
himself.
say, go over here and do this to Jacob. It wasn't.
It was. It was really that kind of a battle.
Because it manifested in himself first.
Because it's not Esav who was maybe 50 miles away, but it was the ministering angel. What does it mean, the angel again? It means that thought, energy, intelligence that says steal, hate, wanted to actually become part and parcel of Yaakov. That's what this whole business is about. If you read it literally, all it is saying that suddenly an angel came and there was a battle. And then he became lame. All right? We'll come to that shortly too. But in any event, what is really happening here is, again, the root of that negative thought, energy, intelligence came to do battle with Yaakov. And the Zohar asks, Shoel, Kevin sha'ama banu el achicha od einanu yodim shu Esav. The angels returned and said, we came to your brother. And says, which brother? Your brother Esav, as if we don't know who's Esav. So the Zohar says, V'im toma shechaza b'tshuva, maybe you think Esav was chozeh b'tshuva, v'holech b'derech mitukan. Lo ken, ela Esav harasha ki mekodem lachen. How do we relate with that? Because in our own minds, there are many times that we would like to believe things that are really not true, right? We like to rationalize things that really don't exist. If we want something desperately, we can make it and turn it into a white lily, right? It could be all wrong, but we can begin to justify and rationalize why I can do it. Unfortunately, many of us do this, not all the time, but on occasion, where we think we are right. Maybe if we're not completely right, we will find the reasons why we're completely right, if we're not too sure. What is that? What is that? That is this part of us that we're talking about. That part that is called negativity. All right? So,
could you also say it's the ego?
What's that?
The ego?
Most times I would have to say that's the bottom of it. That's right. Because what is ego? Ego sells me. What is ego? In essence, it adds up to that one word, me. Everything is for me. Why does someone want ego? Because in this way he receives. If he has an ego, and so everyone will consider him to be a great man, again he is receiving that kind of respect, honor, or whatever. The ego, again. So he says, maybe you think that Esav Harasha did tshuva. Well, what do you mean he did tshuva? Why would I want to think that Esav, would do tshuva. Repentance. I always forget. You've been really away in the Philippines a long time.
I don't understand Hebrew. Not even so.
But these are words that even. I mean, even Jack didn't. Jack was away too, but look how quickly he grasped. That's right.
But I never was.
Right. All right. Now, why would even Yaakov think that he was Chozeh b'tshuva? And here again is a tremendous lesson, especially in our time. A lot of people that I can say that I have seen many thousands that have suddenly been Chozeh b'tshuva. They have turned back to religion. Quote, whatever religion means, right? Chozeh b'tshuva. And the minute he's Chozeh b'tshuva, now he's doing everything. Isn't he now a perfect individual? Like yesterday he ate ham and eggs in the morning for breakfast, right? Now he wouldn't think of eating it. Now he wears a kippah. Yesterday he didn't. Today he wears a long coat. Yesterday he didn't. Today he puts on tefillin. Yesterday he didn't. What could be more of a chozeh b'tshuva than that kind of situation? He's already made it. Can you imagine how long it took? It could have even taken 10 minutes.
What a nice boy.
Wow. This is incredible. What a transformation. Do you really believe that a person could transform in 10 minutes? How many times we try to grow? We try to grow when we've come to grips with a certain condition with our child or our brother or our sister, and for whatever reincarnation reasons we can't get along with them, right? But we make efforts. Could you say overnight two brothers that didn't care for each other overnight care for each other? Each one tries to come to grips with the problems, and little by little. But over here, all of a sudden, in 10 minutes, a miracle happened. He's a totally religious Jew. Incidentally, it can't happen anywhere else, except when you become a totally religious Jew. There is a 5-minute transformation. I don't even think these illusion magicians can do things like that. It even takes them a few minutes until they can change over something from a reality to an illusion or back. But even you see the best of them, not in 5 minutes. And here, 5 minutes, complete transformation. Wow. So maybe you think that Esav was Chozeh b'tshuva, right?
Maybe a born-again Christian can do it.
What's that?
Maybe a born-again Christian can do it also.
At least they've got to listen to an hour lecture, by one of the guys. Yeah, they can do it too, by the way. It goes pretty quick by them too. Yeah. But in any event, maybe it can happen. Maybe someone does become a Chozeh b'tshuva, but ואם תאמר שחזר בתשובה והולך בדרך מתוקת, לא כן. אלא עשב הרשע כמו קודם לכן, וגם הולך לקראתך. Don't think that these things can happen overnight. They don't happen overnight. He is the same individual. The fact that on the outside, Esav, and you're going to hear Esav talk, wow, like he almost forgot everything that happened, right? That Yaakov stole the bracha, right? And he forgot, in fact, that he wanted to kill him. He said, as soon as my father dies, I will kill Yaakov. And he changed all of a sudden. So these angels or messengers came back and say, look, things don't happen like that. Yesterday he wanted to kill you. The fact that today with words, or even with actions, or even with the way you dress, can't happen overnight. A real Chozeh b'tshuva would be someone who has internally changed, but externally doesn't make the change. And therefore he's the same. So the Zohar asks, V'lama amru lo kol zot? Like, really, why do you have to go through all this? Aren't we talking about Yaakov now? Yaakov is one of the chariots. Why would, in essence, he have to fear Esav? He's one of the chariots. He is, in fact, the portrayal of Kavansei, central column. The central column. The man who can balance right and left, who can control the world. Because anyone who can create a totality of balance of right and left, at that moment, no matter what should be happening around everybody else, nothing can touch that individual, no matter what's going on. He will be totally unaffected. If that's the case, then the Zohar says, why did we need all this? You know, sending the presents and being mitpalel, you know, prayer and so on and so forth. And he answers, Mishum sha'kadosh baruch hu rotzeh tamid b'tfilat hatzadikim u'mit'ateh b'tfilatam. Because Hashem wants, or the force, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he wants constantly the prayers of the righteous. And he becomes crowned. He becomes crowned. He, all the way up there, the force, right? He becomes crowned because we pray. She'otan hamalach amamuna al tfilat Yisrael sandalfon shemo. There's a very specific angel, and if you know that angel, that's going to assist you. If you don't know the angel, when you pray all day and all night, I'm not sure how much you really accomplish, but in any event, there's an angel, there is a messenger, there's a force that handles prayer. That handles prayer. If you're in business, do you handle everything if you've got a big business going? You usually have to delegate, and someone's got to handle it. And certainly if we're busy all day in our own business, and when we pray, we can pass that on to somebody else to handle it for us. His name is Sandalfon. And he makes an atara, he makes a crown for eternity. Now what does this really mean? First of all, what significant pleasure is there for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for the Creator, that he wants the tzaddikim to pray? Why would he need it, or why does he want that? And secondly, when we pray, we crown him. Like without our prayers, he remains a king without a crown. Because if he has the crown on, how can I crown him again with my prayers?
Is this a vehicle that is being made?
Well, he's saying that we are creating the crown on the head of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Because we are the vehicle to make it manifest, or to make it happen in the world?
Well, something close to that. All right, but we'll have a 10-minute break.
And I've seen the sign of the times that the Marcus prophesied in a long time. Oh Lord, with the ignorant servants of our people, as held us captives of our own mind. Can't you see we're running out of time? Let's change our lives, my brothers and sisters. Answer the calling of the Father. He is the only one that's willing to save us divine. Get ready for a new time. I've seen a new sign. In I bingy chant right. Mother Nature revealed it, and I do believe it. Yeah. Get ready for a new time. I've seen a new sign. In I bingy chant right. Mother Nature revealed it, and I do believe it. Whoa.
Cause we know we're not gonna get away with the wrongs we continue to display. A scripture from the good book say, according to our works we shall get paid. We've gotta be sure the things we've done is being worthy under the sun.
Get ready for a new time. I've seen a new sign, and I bingy chant right. Mother Nature revealed it, and I do believe it. Get ready for a new time. I've seen a new sign, and I bingy chant right. Mother Nature revealed it, and I do believe it. Whoa. I bring it down right. Now there's a way to live within a way to love the other race that you might hate. Cause in this new time we gotta live to love and everyone learn to appreciate. Let's change our lives, my brothers and sisters. Answer the calling of the Father. He's the only one that's willing to save us divine. Get ready for a new time. I've seen a new sign, and I bingy chant right. Mother Nature revealed it, and I do believe it. War. Get ready for a new time. I've seen a new sign, and I bingy chant right. Mother Nature revealed it, and I do believe it. War.
Cause we know we're not gonna get away with the wrongs we continue to display.
It's a while since I've been trying to get on with you, but you keep on saying you don't know what to do. Don't know much about you, yet you're always on my mind. So all you gotta do is leave it to time. Everything will be fine. Time alone can do anything. Time can move in the mountain. Time will make you realize someone's in love with you. Baby, it's true. Oh. Yeah. So what are we gonna do? Punchilu, now you know how I feel. Will you ever realize that I'm for real? Let me assure you and not promise you I won't break your heart. Now you know it right from the start. So leave it to time. Time alone can do anything. Time will move in the mountain. Time will make you realize someone's in love with you. Baby, it's true. Oh yeah. Baby, it's true. See, yeah.
Well, good evening once again, everyone. And for those of you who are listening to the lecture, I hope it was fulfilling. You know, the Rav has a certain way, again, these teachings I am used to hearing for the last 16 years, yeah? However, for those of you who are new to it, it's a different way of thinking when they reveal the secrets of the Torah. So, remember, we're here every Tuesday and Wednesday night, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget, we have a website, www.kabbalahforjamaicans.com. That's KABBALAH, the number 4, and Jamaicans. That's kabbalahforjamaicans.com. And if you'd like to get in touch with us through WhatsApp, the number here in the studio is country code +1 516 965 5700. That's country code +1 516 965 5700. Alright? So until next time, friends, this is Joshua. We'll see you again Sunday night. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful Shabbat. Okay?
Comes around. Everyone